So, with Halloween on the corner, I thought I'd do something that every YouTuber does at least once in their career. Talk about their childhood horrors. Whenever we were young, we've always stumbled across something that frightened us to our core. Whether it be a show, movie, book, video game. And these fears, they tend to stick with us through all of our life. Lights. So, for today's video, I've come up with 10 things that terrified me as a kid, and now I'm going to reveal them all to you. Just to celebrate the Halloween spirit. If you want to comment something down that scared you as a kid, and be sure to have your favorite candy, and let's commence with the countdown. So, as a kid, one of my favorite superheroes was Green Lantern. And of course, I was interested in checking out the movie. As part of the drill with PG-13s, my parents made sure to watch it themselves first, and then let me watch it if they felt I'd be okay with watching it. Being a stupid little kid, I enjoyed it. But there was one thing I didn't like about it, that being the villain, Parallax. No, I did not like him because he was a weak villain. I didn't like him because he scared the heck out of me. Along with having a not safe for kids appearance, the thing that scared me the most about him was his method of killing people. I mean, sucking people's souls out and turning them into skeletons? That's pure nightmare fuel. That's not really something I forgot about for the next few days or weeks. Luckily, now I know the scariest thing about this movie is that it exists. But at least the toy line is sublime. Thought I would keep the subject on comic book movies, but now we're transitioning from DC to Marvel. Watching X-Men Days of Future Past as a young kid, I was exposed to one of the most terrifying monsters in any movie, the Sentinels. I mean, the concept of Sentinels are terrifying enough, but at least in other media they look kid-friendly. In this movie, they're like the opposites of that. One thing that just stuck out with me was their hard stares. Their eyes just had a feeling of pure hatred. And their designs are one thing, their actions are a whole other thing. Watching these guys just ruthlessly murder all the heroes that I loved was so freaking hard to watch. And that they were truly inescapable, along with there being no way to kill them at all except for making sure they don't exist at all. All I gotta say is, the writers did an amazing job at writing such terrifying villains. If you watched anything from PBS as a child, you had an amazing childhood. A particular favorite of mine was Word Girl, a show that, even as I age, still really holds up. Among the ginormous rogues gallery featured in the show, there was one in particular that anytime they appeared, I couldn't watch it, that being Birthday Girl. For the life of me, I can't understand why the heck she horrified me so much. I remember just so much dread would fill my body anytime she would transform. And so basically, anytime she was in an episode, I would leave the room and wait for that episode to end. When I got older and watched another episode of the show, I saw an episode with Birthday Girl and was just thinking, I was terrified of this? I guess anyone can have a sort of feeling when it comes to something like that. So, Goosebumps fans, don't be mad at me. The thing that got me into Goosebumps books was actually the movie with Jack Black. Something intrigued me about it, and walking out of that theater, I had begun reading whatever Goosebumps book I could find. And while bringing a little bit of horror, they didn't affect me too much. I thought the scariest the series could get was Welcome to the Dead House, which creeped me out more than most others did. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. The Curse of Camp Cold Lake was what broke me. Pretty much, a girl goes to a summer camp and everyone hates her, so she tries to gain sympathy by pretending to drown. This causes her to be haunted by a ghost who repeatedly tries to kill her. The most disturbing part for me was how the protagonist tried to convince everyone of the ghost, but since no one else could see the ghost, they all thought she was insane. And the ending was like the final nail in the coffin, because she attempts to run away only for the ghost to trap her and try to kill her again. And a friend ends up driving the ghost away, explaining that she came back to protect the other campers from her, only to do a complete heel-face turn and threaten to kill the main character. And that's how the story ends. I mean, becoming a fan of horror, it's not as scary as some stuff I would be exposed to later, but still, this was super disturbing for a kid's story. I think what made it worse is that I read it right before going to sleep, so I may have not gotten any sleep that night. Now let's talk about VeggieTales! You may be thinking, what's so terrifying about VeggieTales? It's one of the most wholesome shows ever. And you're right. But Larry Boy and the Big Fib would have to differ. It's a similar situation with Birthday Girl, as I don't really understand why the titular villain scared me. Oh wait, actually I do. I mean, he seemed kinda funny at first, but when he turned into a kaiju, his face of evil, his deep voice, and realizing that he basically wanted to eat everybody, and seeing him actually try and eat Larry, considering that he was my favorite character. Yeah, thank goodness he died at the end, or I wouldn't have gotten any sleep that night. As a lot of you probably have, I grew up watching Disney movies. And one thing I really enjoyed doing was looking at the bonus features. It was fun seeing the voices behind the characters and how the film was made overall, but there was a little something that made me stop doing it. That being the deleted scenes. Deleted scenes were pretty intriguing, but there were two movies that caused me to make a vow to never watch deleted scenes again. At least until I got older. The first being Toy Story. The deleted scene that freaked me out was Woody's nightmare. I mean, sure, the scene it would inspire in Toy Story 2 is a tad freaky, but at least it didn't end with Woody getting eaten by a mass of cockroaches! But that wouldn't be the first offender, because the second offender would come in the form of Cars. Lost, which featured McQueen finding himself in a graveyard full of dead cars. The whole storyboard sketchboard just gave it such an even more macabre and horrifying vibe. But then there was Community Service, which was probably my very first introduction to body horror. Of course, the idea of Cars managing to put McQueen's consciousness into a steamroller was disturbing enough, but then Mater stealing his body, that broke me for some reason. But yeah, I chose to steer clear of deleted scenes after that double whammy of an experience. One of my favorite shows of all time is Doctor Who. I've basically watched it ever since I was 9 years old, and of course, if you're all familiar with Doctor Who, you'll know that there are tons of scary episodes. But the one that truly got under my skin was The Waters of Mars. Along with the monsters in this episode being scary enough to give adults nightmares, the episode also just had much darker tone than a usual episode. And I think a combination of both of those things just ended up instilling such a melancholic emotion within me. And basically, I don't think I slept very well that night. Anytime a commercial break would take place on whatever program the family would view, one series of ads would fill me with tons of dread, that being the Jack Link's Messin' with Sasquatch ads. With the Sasquatch having a pretty creepy appearance, I basically interpreted him as attacking all these poor innocent people. Luckily, as I got older, I realized that the people basically deserved what they got and that the Sasquatch was actually nice. Thank goodness I never saw the hand buzzer one as a kid. Unlike literally every other kid in my age range, I did not particularly grow up with SpongeBob. Yeah, my mom thought it was annoying, so we didn't watch it in the house. But I would still be able to watch it at my grandparents' house. Sometimes I would sleep over there with my cousins, and they were the ones who introduced it to me. So usually when I was at their house, I would watch that. Well, one day I was there alone, and I saw an episode that years later I would figure out to be SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants. It has that Patchy the Pirate segment, which I'd never seen anything Patchy related prior to viewing that episode, so I was like, What is this? I want to watch SpongeBob. I kept on going in and out of the room, and I guess I kept on missing the SpongeBob segments because I witnessed true horrors beyond mankind's comprehension. Realistic SpongeBob hallucinated by Patchy, one of the most cursed things I have ever seen, the utter hopelessness of Patchy's situation, and those freaky aliens at the end. My overall outcome is that the writers really wanted to terrify kids and decided to hire David Lynch. You cannot convince me that that isn't the truth. If you're new here, you should know that I love Star Wars. You could say that I pretty much grew up on it. Now, a scene that really freaked me out as a kid was in A New Hope when Luke goes back to the homestead to find his aunt and uncle burnt to a crisp. It basically took several viewings to realize what the heck happened. And I distinctly remember not getting any sort of sleep that night. I think the overall outcome is that we fear things that we don't understand. Uncertainty can be terrifying. And yep, that's the video for today, so leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, comment something that horrified you as a kid, or your favorite Halloween candy, and have a blessed day.